Good morning, gentle chair yogis. Maybe it's not morning for you, but it's morning for me. Thanks for being accommodating with my schedule today. And we're going to do a forward bending practice today, as is the theme of the week for yoga this week. And I kind of like to frame the practices with certain ideas. And this week is about how we relate to our poses. Some of us kind of linger on the underwhelming side of the pose. Some of us tend to overdo, to push too hard. And so as we come into these more compact poses, I just want you to kind of explore the question for yourself of where you tend to gravitate with these poses and in life itself, underwhelming, overwhelming. And of course, the art of yoga is really about equalizing, finding balance, and kind of making corrections the other way. So if you tend to underwhelm yourself, you might just gently push a little harder today. And if you tend to overdo, you might back off and take a more backed off approach. So let's begin like we always do, just getting centered. Feel free to use as much of the seat of the chair as you need, but try not to sit on the back of the chair. Use your own effort to sit tall. Just feel the feet against the floor. Try to feel the parts of the body that are grounded, either directly down to the floor or into the chair or against your body, like the hands, the shoulders moving toward the floor, the lower jaw moving toward the floor, the tongue, and even your gaze, pointing your gaze down toward your cheeks, toward your heart. And even though you're not directly sitting on the floor, imagine your sitting bones moving through the chair, like there's roots coming out of the chair down to the floor and into the floor. Really sensing into the full surface area of both feet. Bringing your attention to all of the little toe pads. And once you feel connected with either the chair, the floor, or just releasing in general, the shoulders, the jaw. Only once we can feel the connection are we able to find the lightness and the energy. Feeling the spine start to respond with length. Maybe a lightness shows up in the abdomen where there was gripping before. Maybe now there's a softening. Maybe there's more freedom across the chest, softness to your face. Just feeling this experience of balance in the body, of feeling resourced with foundation, and then of also feeling the effervescence, the lightness that comes with that, the other side of that. Go ahead and join your hands together in front of your heart. And just take a moment to move the shoulders back if they rounded forward. Adjust your skull so it's perfectly stacked above the spine. And maybe use your thumbs or the bases of the thumbs to press up on the sternum. Maybe allowing the corners of the mouth to float up as well. Let's take a nice deep in-breath here. And on your exhale, without losing the lifting and the spreading of the chest, lower your chin toward your chest, bow toward your heart. Gently moving the hands down, lifting the head, and allowing your eyes to come open when you're ready. Start from sitting in the chair, just gently moving, drop the chin to the chest, and roll your head to one side. Back to center, gently moving the head in the other direction. Just do this a couple times, noticing what sort of information you're receiving, what sort of sensation lives in your neck and shoulders when you do this very simple, slow movement. Semicircle, dipping the chin toward the chest and then rolling each ear to each shoulder. You might start to notice you're rolling the head to the side on the in-breath and back to center on the out-breath. Bringing it back to center. Lift your head. And then make sure you have a wider stance. We're going to be arching our spine and dipping the chest toward the floor. So there's a little pot of ink. Your chest is trying to make it there first. Bowing as deeply as you can. You might feel this more in your groins. You might feel it in your back, chest, your shoulders. There's no wrong place to feel it. But definitely notice where you're feeling it. To come up, chin tucks in. The back rounds, the belly hollows toward the back, and we stack the spine slowly. We're going to try to come down with the exhalation leading us. So again, dipping the chest, pull the shoulders back. Keep your eyes on the horizon. And then when you get to your lowest point with your chest, that's time to reverse. Hollowing the front body into the back body, stacking the spine, and rolling up slowly. We'll just keep repeating this, and as you do so, really attempt to prioritize the smoothness. We aren't as interested in how far you're able to get to the floor, how close. We're not as interested in how many times in a row you can do this. It's really about the fluidity of the movement. Let's do it one more time like we are. Arching your way down on the exhalation. And inhaling all the way up. And then collect yourself for a moment once you get to the top. We'll do it again, but we're going to do it now. Rounding the spine on the way down, still exhaling as we go down, and then inhaling and arching the way up. So chin tucks in, navel pulls in, like there's a string attached from the belly button to the spine. Tailbone curls in, your back looks like the letter C. Take your head toward the floor. So now it's the head we want to get toward the floor rather than the chest. And when your head gets to its lowest point, then begin to initiate the arching of the spine and come up with that good side of the spoon back body. So concave back body. You're going to move back through the rounded spine. Inhale and come up. 3 more. Moving with your breath. Don't get ahead of yourself. 2 more. Exhale as you lower. And inhale as you rise up and out of it. Once more. Come up. Put yourself kind of back in the neutral spine, the S curve of the spine, the neutral curves. Move your legs now together. And we're going to take a seated version of child's pose. We're attempting to get the contact between the chest and thighs. Feel free to put something there like a blanket if you want a little spacer or if you want to close that gap. There's reasons for the blanket. Sometimes to protect kind of some space between the body can be helpful. And also if you're having a big gap there, you might put the blanket there to kind of close the gap and feel a little bit more supported. So this is kind of mimicking the child's pose. The spine is in a single curve. I'm looking toward you, but tuck your chin in toward your chest to complete that curve. And feel how the contact of the legs directly, or if you're using a prop, how that helps move the breath into the back body. It helps kind of float some space between the back ribs. And we're thinking about broadening the back body as much as we're thinking about extension. So remember, we have the movement of the breath the lateral, meaning across the back body, and the extensive breath up the spine and up the back body. Let your head just completely surrender, dangle from the neck, support the reversing flow of the spine that usually faces gravity in the other direction. Just 2 more breaths here. And take your hands to your thighs and just gently pressing down into your thighs, bring yourself up. If you're dizzy, just taking some time to pause, to let that resolve. And then you'll swivel off to the right side of your chair. We're going to come into a twist here. So feel free to grab the back of the chair. You might not be completely supported with both buttocks. That's okay. Just try to keep your legs, your shins vertical so you feel really connected with the floor, the heels in line with the knees, the toes in front of the heels. Just start to turn yourself breath by breath. Imagining the twist originating low and starting to climb the spine. So we want to make sure we don't crank the neck around until the end. Let your chin just kind of hover above the chest. We're going to introduce a forward bend into the twist here. So you're going to slide your hand that's kind of back behind you, slide it forward. The hand that's in front of you, you're going to slide it down on the chair somewhere. And you're getting a connection of the arm across the body to the outer opposite leg. You're also getting a connection of the hand onto the chair leg. So you're still rotated in your spine, but now you're more compact in a forward bend as well. So again, use the chair, what you're holding, to help you turn your chest. And here's a great time to just check in with that question. Am I kind of underwhelmed here? Or am I pushing too hard? And either way is an imbalanced situation. So there's a couple markers that we can notice and look for to trust that we're in a really nice spot for ourselves in our poses. One of the markers is that you are fully present. You're aware of sensation as it's occurring. You're aware of your breath. You're aware of the mind. If you're not present, that's usually a clue that you are on one side or the other of the right amount of sensation, too much or too little. The other marker that you're in a really good pose is that you can sense the entire interior landscape of your body at once. You have a global awareness of your body. And if you're feeling like your attention is kind of just hanging out in one particular spot in your body, it might be a clue that you're in too deep or not deep enough. So just check in. Every pose is a container to study the self. So you're in this kind of deep forward bend and this deep rotation. So we want to be gentle as we come out because the back is always something we want to protect. But just kind of grip your stomach muscles like they're made of particle board. Keep the rotation, but start to bring yourself out of the forward bend. And then you can turn back to facing directly to the right out of the twist. Okay, just take a moment here to pause, receiving any residuals that come, any after effects that you notice. And then you can just swivel around on your chair so that you're facing the left side of your mat. And the chair seat's off to your left. And again, just check in, the shins are vertical, toes are in front of the heels, your feet are hip distance wide. That's really stabilizing stuff we want to do. And go ahead and start to take hold of the chair. I like to lift the elbows a little so that my chest can really broaden. And you're going to start that gentle twisting, breath by breath. You're not yanking the spine, you're not forcing anything prematurely, you're just kind of tracking with the edge that is a moving target, most definitely in our twists. We go deeper and deeper with every single breath. The chin is just neutral for now, right above the chest. You might play with a little bit of the idea that your hips clamp toward one another. This is going to give you a little more stability down below, so you have more mobility up above. It's probably a good time to turn the neck now. So to complete the twist, you're going to look over the far shoulder. And now we're going to try to maintain this twist, but we are going to take the fold as well. So the hand that's farther back, slide it towards the front body. And then the hand that's closer to the front body, slide it down the chair, maybe onto the leg or somewhere lower. And hopefully you have the arm crossing the body and attaching to some outer part of the opposite leg. Using the leverage of your hands and your arm against your leg, still rotating the spine, you're in a more compact forward bend. Breath by breath. And connect the dots between the sacrum, the tailbone, the very tip of the spine, all the way up to the brainstem and out through the top of the head. Even though the skull is not part of the spine, the exit point for that line of energy from the spine does move through the skull and out through the very crown of the head. So lengthen with the crown, every in-breath, like someone's pulling a little rope. And every out-breath, wringing the spine out, go deeper, a little bit deeper, gently. And again, you're asking the question, am I in a white knuckle situation waiting for this to end because I'm in too deep? Or am I asleep thinking about other things because I'm bored and underwhelmed? And just kind of check in. Are you present? Can you find that full body awareness? Last exhale. And now before coming out of the twist, just come back upright first. Bring your torso up. And then inhale and unrotate your spine. Come back to facing head on, facing out. Good work. Now swivel around back to facing forward. Move a wider forward bend. So I want you way back on your chair with your buttocks. I want you to take your legs wide as they go, which might not look like mine. So that's always something to remember is our poses we shouldn't worry about the shape. It's about the sensation. So yes, we have alignment points, but your pose might not look like your neighbor's pose, might not look like my pose. So once you do your best with the alignment points, it really comes down to sensation. Don't work with pain, and we don't want to be overwhelmed or underwhelmed. Okay, so we have our legs wide. The knees, you'll notice, want to knock here. So it just kind of meant just bringing the knees toward the small toes. That's a great kind of way to line up the knees well. Another way, if you're not sure where the knees are in space, is if you're feeling all your weight on your big toe ball mounds and your small toes are uprooted, we can trust that our knees are misaligned because the knees follow those feet. So if you can really balance the feet, you'll probably be in a really good position with your knees. So make sure your small toes are sitting down as much as your big toes. Same with the small toe ball mounds and the big toe ball mounds. They should be evenly pressing down. Same with the inner and outer heel. Okay, so just really bringing granular awareness to your feet is a really good idea here. Okay, so keeping as much of that as you can, you're going to start to come forward. And if you have blocks at home and you feel like the floor is way too far away, you'll put blocks under your hands so that you don't already feel compromised or unstable. What we're going to do is attempt to grab the legs of the chair. So if you don't feel comfortable with that, or that's not accessible to you, you're going to work with your blocks instead, or soup cans or books, whatever you have at home. But keep working with the alignment of the knees. You might notice once you folded forward, the knees started to knock again. So rolling the weight out to the small toe ball mounds, the outer heels, back to the small toes themselves. And then you're gonna let your head go. You might bend your elbows. You might be able to grab the chair legs, like I said. Let your head go. This is a seated wide forward bend. Let your groins have some breath. Even though you're in this forward fold, keep taking the tip of the tailbone toward the chair. It might start to curl up toward the ceiling. Imagine it's that little lens of the periscope on a ship, and point it toward the floor. Good. So if you're on your blocks, you're just going to start to straighten your arms. If you're on your chair legs, you'll bring your hands forward onto the floor of the blocks. So we'll come into a half position here where your lower back is concave or flat. It's no longer rounded. And then you're going to bring your hands each individually to the thighs and press down and bring yourself up, all the way up. And then joining the legs and feet together. So we're just going to pause for a moment, sit up tall, make sure your feet are right in line with your knees, they're hip distance, drop the shoulders. It's like you're in a seated mountain pose. Your eyes looking down toward your cheeks. Deep breath. Okay, so we're going to come up to standing, but through the doorway of Utz Hanasana, which is chair pose. This pose has 3 translations. Utz Hanasana can translate as chair pose, which resembles the shape of the pose. It can translate as fierce pose, which can kind of speak to the amount of effort required in the pose. And it also is translated as awkward pose, which is another appropriate pose for it because you're not sitting and you're not standing. So it's a little awkward in the body, hence the effort required to sustain it. So we're going to kind of go in baby steps through the poses. Through the into the pose. We're going to go in baby steps into the pose, starting with just sitting in your chair. So come forward on the chair so you're no longer sitting back on the back if you were there. Put your feet in line with your heels in line with your knees, and your feet are hip distance wide. Your second toe is aligning with your heels. I can see, you guys can't see my toes on the screen, but they are right in front of my heels. And then you're going to take your arms up. And if you need the modification for the arms, remember you can do a letter V shape. You can do a goal post to give your shoulders some relief if you have shoulder pain when you fully elevate the arms. I have shoulder pain this morning because I got my flu shot over here and my COVID booster over here. So my shoulders feel like 10 pounds heavier today and they feel bruised and sore. But I can still take my arms up without being overwhelmed. So that's what I'm doing. Extend up through the fingernails, and you're going to hinge forward just a little bit at the hip joint so that you're angling your torso so it's not perfectly upright anymore. And then instead of fully coming out of the chair, which is more like the full pose, you're just going to step deeply into your feet. So push your feet into the floor. You still have a lot of weight of your butt in the chair, but you're using some effort here to kind of take on the general shape of the pose. And then soften at the temples. We tend to get really excited in this pose. We tend to create tension, unnecessary tension in the face, in the temples, in the jaw, in the eyes. So relaxing the temples, softening the eyes. Good. And so even that was work. So go ahead and release it. Sit back upright again. You can slide back. You can take a little modified child's pose here with your arms on your legs. Just take a few breaths. These are really good poses for knee health because they create a lot of stability around the knees and the muscles that surround the knees. And so squatting and lunging and doing wall sitting and doing this pose, chair pose, all very good for keeping your knees healthy or for supporting the knees to become healthier. So something we want to do as we age, as which we all are aging. Okay, so we're going to do second version. Join the feet. But you'll notice when you join the feet, you might have misaligned yourself. So a lot of us have to split the heels slightly with the big toes joining to keep good alignment. So it's always that second toe aligning with the heels. So I have to bring a little space between my heels to keep aligned, but everybody's shaped differently. So structure is important to know what you have for yourself. So you're going to be joining the knees, joining the feet, maybe the heels are separated. You're coming back with the arms up or to your modified arm. You're going back into a slight forward pitch with the trunk. You're tilting the pelvis forward to help you do that so that you don't shorten the lumbar. Your chest should be more forward than your arms. And one way we know this is we can't see the arms in our peripheral vision. So if you're seeing arms, you know that your chest is concave and your shoulders are forward. So find a way to modify that. So your arms move back, your chest moves forward. Step back into your feet. You might tighten the pelvic floor, which is just a very subtle contraction, like it takes your eyes to blink. It's the same amount of effort, just a little blink at the pelvic floor to keep moving the energy up the spine. Keep stepping into your feet. You might be getting tired now, a couple more breaths. And go ahead and sit back upright, lower the arms, come back to sitting forward, just resting, breathing. So even with the support of the chair, this pose is pretty fierce. It's pretty high octane. You might notice that you're a little bit more out of breath. So those are normal attributes of the pose, normal kind of physical response to the pose, but they can also fire you up. So the good thing about these poses is that it's like squeezing your fist, and you squeeze the fist, squeeze the fist, squeeze the fist, which is like holding the pose, and then you let it go, and you have this rush of energy, rush of blood flow. You have sensation coming into the body part that you might not have had earlier. So the awareness follows that sensation. So we'll do it one more time. It's very same thing with the legs together, and I want you to give it all you've got. And maybe your butt comes off the chair, maybe it doesn't, and it's not really important as long as you're doing your best. You're coming to your edge. So the knees together, feet together, heels slightly split apart if you need that for the alignment. You're going to sit forward, take the arms up, arms out of sight. Make sure you're not throwing your head forward, that your head still follows the course of the spine as if it moves up through the core of the skull. Extend up through the fingernails, plug the shoulders into the trunk, angle forward slightly, and then give it all you've got. Step into your legs, step into your feet. The butt becomes lighter in the chair. You're breathing higher octane breaths, and you're gently contracting the pelvic floor. 3 more breaths. Use your arms to create extension to the sides of the torso, like you're lifting the side ribs up. You're the whole rib cage, you're lifting up. Those latissimus dorsi in the back body, you're elongating and lifting those up. Good. Go ahead and sit back down. And last time, just resting in your version of child's pose. Let your head go. And just let your breath be whatever it is. So it might be big old raggedy panting breath. Try to be a container for that breath. Don't shrink it down, don't quiet it down. Good. You guys are doing great, right? So we're going to do a runner's stretch now. We will get to standing in a moment, but there's so much to do here, seated with these forward bends. So we're going to do a runner's stretch where we basically have one leg extended and your foot off the gas. We're going to have the left leg be our extended, toes pulled back, or some ankle flexion position. So your toes are right above your heel. Your leg is so solidly firm that your kneecap it's locked in. It's not locked out, which means we're hyperextending the knee. It's locked in, meaning your muscles are supporting the knee. It doesn't wobble around if you try to move it. The other leg is going to be just bent knee, foot right beneath the knee. Okay, so we're going to be hinging forward over the left leg. You can just leave your legs or your arms kind of passively on your lap. And everybody has a stopping point. So that's your edge. You want to really target the belly of the muscle, meaning the center between the muscle center between the heel and the back of the knee would be the belly of the calf muscle. And then the muscle center between the back of the knee and the buttock bones. So we want to target the hamstring. So if you're feeling this behind your knee or behind your ankle, that's a sign that you're kind of in that overwhelmed relationship to your edge. You want to back off. Okay, so you might be able to rest the forearm and come in a little deeper, but we're just going to take 5 good breaths, sensing into the back of the left leg. Meanwhile, try to attempt to visualize your back body. We want to have more level shoulder girdle. We want to have more level pelvis and hips. We want to have equal length to the sides of the torso, left and right. So we don't want to look like a banana, in other words. And after an exhalation, look forward, pressing down on that right thigh, bring yourself up and step the left foot underneath you. Same thing, second side. Could be different. A lot of times the body is not a match set left to right because of imbalances based on habits, based on anatomy, based on lifestyle, based on dominance. We all have dominant arms, dominant feet. So you have to kind of just go in with a fresh mind, not just assuming it's going to be just like what you just did earlier. So you're going to hinge forward over the right leg. You have extended the leg. You have firmed up the leg. You're taking deep breaths. You're trying to sense into the belly of the muscles. Be conscious with your breathing. Be intentional. So it's not just your passive out to lunch breathing. It's focused, deep breathing. You've basically opened a window in the body and you're inviting breath to move in. Breath is prana. The translation of prana is energy. Breath is energy. So it's like cleaning a house, except your breath is the broom, your body is the house. And I love to clean, but I recognize not everybody does love to clean. But so whatever your relationship is with cleaning, you can notice that too. Last big exhale. On your inhale, look forward and lift yourself up. Good. Seated gate pose, different but similar. We're going back to wide legs, except we'll do it individually. So we're going to step the right foot off to the side. And for most of us, the pelvis turns with that. We have to resist that turning. So that's going to call upon your inner thigh. So what I like to suggest is that you use your right hand against the inner right knee. So you hold it back, even though the knee wants to flop in. You're holding it back, and then you're resisting your torso from the right to the left to keep your hips really pointed squarely, your shoulders really pointed squarely. The left leg is going to be directly as it has been for the seated stuff. So heel in line with knee, toes in front of heel. So ideally we have 90 degrees, but a lot of us don't have that yet. We're a little bit more acute of an angle. It's a very acute angle. And so for now, we're just pressing the inner knee and we're turning the torso only enough to correct. You're not trying to turn off to the left here. You're only turning enough to keep your shoulders and hips really squared up. Okay, so nice deep breaths. We're in an upright, spacious position here. We're going to change it in a moment, as you might have predicted. And you think about your right buttock. It probably feels kind of bulky, like it's pushing back. Think about taking the flesh of the buttock and rolling it kind of under the chair and toward the camera. And you might get a little bit more alignment out of that action. Okay, so we're going to make this more compact shape. And I'm going to have you kind of break out of the perfect pose you've just created to find something to put between your hand and the floor, because we're going to go a little lower. So you might have a block, you might have something that you're improvising with as a block, but it should be approximately, well, it should be whatever height you need. That's not the floor and it's not as high as your inner knee. So you can do anything in between the measurements. Of course, if you can go to the floor in a comfortable way, by all means, but most of us need a little bit of a spacer to fill in that gap. Okay, so you're going to position your hand as well as you can under the shoulder line. You're still doing the same actions of revolving the torso so that you're not just turning to the floor and passively rotating that way. So you're rotating enough to the left to keep your shoulders and hips level. You're really anchoring into your hand. If you have wrist issues, make a fist and push down on your fist rather than flexing the wrist. You can save that joint a little bit in doing so. Use your arm to keep that knee toward the small toe side. So you're pressing the arm into the knee and connect the dots from the tailbone out through the top of your head. So imagine that beautiful spine. Every time you breathe in, give a little length, like someone's pulling the string from the top of the head. And every time you exhale, draw those right side ribs around. Take the turn a little farther. Deep breaths. Every time you exhale, you detox. So don't be shy with your exhales. You're home alone probably, or maybe with your live-in roommate, whoever that is, but just every time you exhale, maybe even add some sound. Be very liberal with your exhales. Be excited about your exhales. I sometimes think of the movie that half the world has not seen called The Green Mile with Forrest Whitaker, and he was a healer person. But every time he exhaled people's sorrows, he exhaled this stream of, it looked like flies and green breath. And I just always think of that when I do my big exhales, because it's like letting go of whatever you're holding on to that's just holding you down. Let it go. And now you're going to inhale and come out of the twist first, and then inhale, come upright. So safely. We never want to do it all at once, and we don't want to do it carelessly. We want to kind of be very intentional about how we come into our poses and how we come out of them. Okay, so that was gate pose to the right. Just take a moment, centered, move your block aside, come back to your version of a seated chair pose, or child's pose. Put your spine in a single curve. Drop the head. Receive the breath. And as you're ready, you can come up and you'll set up the upright version of gate pose first. So we're just going to step the foot off to the side. I just have my little timer going. It keeps shutting off on me. Set your foot off to the side, trying to create as much as you can of a 90-degree relationship with your legs. We have to train that knee to press toward the small toe side. So we're going to use the hand for support. Your left toe should be pointing off to the left. There's no turn in with the foot, so make sure the toes are in front of the heel. Your right leg is just as it has been, heel under knee, shin is upright. Okay, and we're doing that little bit of pressure with the hand and a little bit of awareness of rotating the torso, only enough to keep the hips and shoulders really squared up. And you're breathing into the groins and the inner thigh. You're thinking about that bulky left buttock and just gently rolling it underneath where you're sitting on the chair and toward the camera, and see if that gives you a little more access to the good alignment here. Takes away some of that direct effort. Sometimes imagery can just work wonders in our poses, or even the language we use around the instructions of the poses can, these very subtle ways can really change the poses. I started my career path as a creative writer, and I really feel like I still use it just in, designing language around this practice of yoga. I think it has a lot of influence on how we receive the practice, how we can imagine the actions required of the practice. Couple more breaths. Good. So we'll prepare the block or whatever you're using. And it's going to be in front of or to the inside of the left foot, but it also needs to be, as well as you can, aligning with the shoulder and the wrist. So once you lean kind of down to the side, you'll get that alignment. You'll see it show up. So pinning your arm against your leg. Right hand can be where it's useful, maybe pressing down on your thigh. And so you're still working the actions of keeping the knee in line with your toes, of keeping weight to the small toe ball mounds, of revolving the trunk from left to right. But now you're also folding. You're folding sideways. So you've become more compact. So remember that we have to keep the spine spacious. So inhale, tailbone out through the crown. Exhale, revolving. Those left side ribs living in the shadows there, you're trying to bring them into the light. Maybe some open mouth, ha sounding exhales here. Just 2 more of them. And when you're ready to inhale, first just kind of come out of the revolving position you're in. And then next inhale, lifting yourself upright. Stepping that left foot back in. And one last time, just sitting forward, bowing the head, receiving your breath, being with the resonance, the energetic residue. Good. So we'll do a few standing forward bends. And then that'll be pretty much it. We'll be out of here in a little bit. So just keep working with how you show up in these poses. Are you underwhelmed? Are you overwhelmed? Are you just right, like Goldilocks? Okay, so using the chair, we'll face the chair. We'll start in our chair version of downward facing dog. So you're going to walk your legs back until your torso is at an angle, but your legs remain vertical. And it's that perfect kind of I've arrived feeling where there's enough stretch going on, but it's not like you're quivering. If your body quivers in your poses, you're overdoing. So don't ever come to the point of the quivering. That's muscles contracting excessively. That is not the goal. So feet are spaced hip distance, toes in front of heels. You're drawing your hips away from your wrists. Every time you exhale, the shoulder blades sink in toward the chest. Every time you breathe in, the torso elongates. Keep your legs as straight as they go, which might not mean they're perfectly straight. They might still be quasi-bent. Roll your inner knees back. Bring awareness to the soles of the feet so they're not just pancakes attached to your ankles. They have depth beneath them. They have this beautiful assortment of sensation. Let your head simply pass through the space of the arms. Don't hold with your neck, just let the head go. And as you roll the roots of their thumbs down and the index fingers down, see if you can oppose that by rolling the inner upper arms up. Okay, so index fingers and thumbs down, inner upper arms up. So the arms have these harmonious rotations. The upper arm rotates one way, the lower arms rotate the other. And just to bring a little freedom to your lower back, just very subtly rolling one buttock back at a time. So the way that works is you're just kind of manipulating weight bearing over your feet to help swivel your hips. You'll feel your sides stretch out individually, like washing a window with your butt. And then find a way to just center yourself again. And you're going to slowly round your back. and tiptoe toward the chair. And you're going to become more compact now for Utz Hanasana. So this is legs right underneath you again, but your arms can fold up or you can stack your fists. You're closer to the chair. Your head can either be placed on your arms or your fists, or it can hang freely. Some of us don't need the chair, and you can simply push it away and just let your arms dangle. Now we're going to play with that idea of space. So drop your arms, press on your thighs, come all the way up. And you're going to find a blanket. So you want to have a blanket. I don't know if you can see it sideways here, but not too bulky, because we're going to try to hinge it between our thighs and our soft internal organs, essentially, when we fold forward. So you're going to kind of place it over your legs like an apron. And you can still work with the chair if you need that for support. You're going to be facing the chair to do this. You don't have to use a chair if you don't need it. I know some of you don't need it. It goes right below the hip creases. So where we have the indentations where the legs flex and extend, goes below that line. And then you have to lift your stomach. Some of us have a little bit of a belly roll. So you're going to just kind of lift your stomach so that the stomach comes over the front of the blanket, and you'll catch that blanket once you fold forward. So you don't have to hold it. You can use the chair again if you need it, or you can let your arms dangle. But I just want you to feel like what it's like when we A, close the gap with this soft prop, and B, when we support those soft internal organs, we might have a different experience. So you're going to stay about half a minute. And now go ahead and let the blanket fall. Help yourself come up, tighten your stomach muscles, and wherever you arrive, put yourself in mountain pose, standing upright, drop your shoulders, balance the weight-bearing patterns in your feet, look toward your cheeks, adjust the skull to align directly above the spine. So we need effort to be here, but you're turning the dial down as far as you can so you're not gripping or tense. The pose eventually becomes so restful, even in this effortful state, it becomes so restful that it's like an upright lying down pose, Shavasana, the corpse pose. And just feel the freedom and the spaciousness of this pose when we're not all folded up and compact. How the breath can move through, it can sweep through the body with ease. What it's like to stand here in spaciousness after being so clenched. It's like that idea of squeezing a fist and then releasing it. The flush of energy, the flush of sensation. And with sensation, it like paints the body to be more aware. And blink your eyes open. The last poses we're going to do are standing forward, fold Partanasana with the chair seat. If you like, feel free to throw a blanket, the same blanket, over the seat of the chair, because you may have the option to put the head down, and if you do, it's going to be a softer landing with the blanket there than cold metal or wood or whatever your chair is made of. So we'll step into our shape for this pose, which is the right leg forward, toes under the chair, the left leg back, toes slightly turned out, like a 60 to 80 degree angle on the foot. Your feet are not on the same line, so clearing the width of the hips. If you drew the lines from the heels to the hips, you would want the feet hip distance apart. And you're going to start on long arms, just trying to find your hips rotating more level. So we do tend to kind of slope down to the forward leg side. So the adjustment is to kind of pull up the right leg here, drop down with the outer left hip until you feel that kind of level feeling across your lower back. You can even run your hand there if you don't have any awareness of what that's looking like. Okay, a few breaths, looking forward, moving the shoulder blades in, finding length and evenness to the sides of the trunk. And then on your exhale, try to carry that forward and come lower. You might come to your forearms, you might place your head down directly, you might stack your arms or stack your fists. So you're coming to that again, that perfect Goldilocks, not too much, not too little, just right. And you're using this very unique container for your breath to move through your body, for energy to sweep through. Full body awareness. Presence, state of mind. These are the clues that we are in a very good physical position. So when we have full body awareness, it's a clue that the body is working as a whole. And if our attention is pooling to one area of the body, it's a clue that our body is not working as a whole, that something is overwhelmed and other parts are underwhelmed. So that's why we're looking for that kind of, we can bring our attention to the entire interior physical sensational landscape of the body all at once. Two more breaths. On your inhale, go back to your tall arms, hands pressing down, look forward. And then you can find a way to bring your feet together and then gently step back with your right foot and set up the second side of the pose. So spend some time with your arms right in line with your shoulders. Your arms are long. You're rooting up. You're kind of drawing the femur head of the left leg up into the hip joint. You're rolling the outer right hip down. You're trying to find that level, balanced pelvis. The sacrum, if you run your hand across, is level. You're bringing your chest forward. You're extending the sides of your torso. And then on an exhale, you're going to go to your deepest, whatever that is for you. Maybe it's bent elbows. Maybe it's your forearms all the way down. Maybe your head comes down. Maybe some open mouth, ha sounding exhalations. Notice how when the breath moves out of the diaphragm, we can go deeper in our pose. We have space. The torso comes in closer to the leg. On the inhales, we elongate, we encourage the lengthening of the torso. When you come to the end of your next exhalation, start to make your way back to your long arms, look forward, and then using some gentle movement to bring the feet together. Come all the way up. We're going to take the blanket from the chair off to the side. We're going to stand in front of the chair. And I'm going to bring you back to Utz Hanasana. We did 3 versions sitting in the chair. Now we're going to do kind of the reverse. We're going to sit back down, but coming through that fierce, awkward chair pose. Join the feet, toes, big toes together, heels slightly apart. Raise the arms, modified or vertical parallel arms. Come to the top of an in-breath. And on your exhale, almost sit down, but don't let your butt fully sit down. Angle the torso forward slightly, lift the pelvic floor. Breathe, breathe, use your feet, really stamp down into your feet. Hold it, hold it, hold it until you very much need to sit down, and then arriving to your chair seat. Hopefully you made it. Bring your arms down, step the feet forward, and go ahead and rest in your gentle child's pose. You might use your arms, you might just connect your chest to your thighs directly. Let your head hang. And come halfway up and widen your feet. Sit way back on the chair so you have a nice amount of purchase underneath you. You're going to grab your elbows in your hands and let your head go. Just let the head be free. And just start to gently rock from side to side. Gently rocking. A little to the left, a little to the right. And the next time you're over to the right, drop the hands so that they're going to come to either side of your right foot. Bring your torso as much as you can up onto the right thigh, and then let your head go. Start to crawl your hands forward until the arms are straight. Keep crawling the hands to the middle space. And now gently walking the hands to center. And you're going to crawl on over to the other side. Lift your torso, bring it over the thigh. Stay for 5 breaths. And then come back to center. And slowly come up. So go ahead and sit up tall. Close your eyes, sit back on the chair. Put your hands in a restful position. Feel free to stay as long as you like here. Namaste.